Before we begin, thank you very much to Fu Hibiki for pitching in over on Ko-fi. Thank you very much, Fu. Hope you're doing well. Have not talked to Fu in a hot minute. Need to fix that at some point. Thank you very much for contributing to the Ko-fi and contributing straight to the channel. Do appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. So, yesterday's video, I stopped myself from including one particular thing, and that thing was something I thought was universal, but maybe it's not. So we'll get into that in a bit. First off, it's a debate video. Haven't done one in a bit. Mean to do these like every 2 or 3 weeks. This one got away from me because I've been crazy busy. But last time, when we asked a poll, we asked, what role do you prefer for Bumblebee? And this one I honestly thought would be a little bit more leveled out because so many modern Transformer fans, so many of the younger ones know him from the Bay movies, know him from the recent cartoons. You know Bumblebee as a warrior. A lot of newer, fresh Transformer fans have never seen him as the Scout. However, the results are 3-1 Scout over Warrior. I honestly would not have picked it to be that one-sided. One, it tells me I have a lot more classic Transformer fans in my audience than I originally thought, which I guess makes sense. I do a lot of G1 content. Don't do a whole lot of Cyberverse or Prime content. But, you know what? Okay. I will accept these results. I do prefer Bumblebee to be a Scout. Like, the action hero vibe, the action hero, like, lead character warrior type, I don't know, it just never felt right. Like, it feels like a completely different character carrying the name Bumblebee. It's not what the character was designed to be. It wasn't the personality that the character ever had. Like, I prefer him to be that young, plucky Autobot who's friendly to humans and trying to win Optimus Prime's approval. You know, despite the fact that he is small and underpowered compared to the other Autobots. It's his bravery, despite that, that makes him a strong character, rather than, you know, just being, you know, in what some of the Bayverse movies depicted as something like a living death machine. So, you know what? I'm happy with the result. I'm happy classic Bumblebee is well remembered. I guess with the live action verse, the Bayverse especially cooling off, and maybe it's not a surprise that like the classic Bumblebee is like still that popular. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Like, if it feels a little bit, I don't know. It feels one sided. Maybe my audience is not a good. Maybe my audience is not a good sample for this particular experiment. So we're gonna try a different one. We're gonna try something different. I'm not gonna throw something at you today. It's gonna pit you against each other in the comment section. No, we're just gonna go with just a personal preference thing today. Do you use the instructions? Like, honestly, like, as Transformer fans, I think so many of us have been doing this for so long. Either we habitually use instructions because of various reasons, or we just toss them and see how we do. And there's a lot of different factors to this that we need to account for before we truly get into this topic. Number one, I am aware that there are exceptions. You know, like, obviously an answer is sometimes. So, you know, a movie masterpiece, for instance, I'm not expecting anybody to go in blind, okay? I've only owned one movie masterpiece, and it's Bone Crusher, and that's like 90 some transformation steps. Like, it's not that one. That's not even a case of me like using the instructions. That is a case of me like making sure those instructions are never more than 2 feet away from that toy. Like, that's an extreme amount of instruction I am going to need. So yeah, certain stuff, masterpiece, more complicated studio series, especially larger studio series, I absolutely get it. I absolutely get it. Instructions are fine there. I'm like, no harm, no foul. Don't blame you. That's where it's kind of necessary. The other gray area is, well, you don't really need instructions these days because you can just watch somebody on YouTube do the whole transformation for you. If you are using my videos to learn how to transform a transformer, I do apologize. I'm not the best at keeping them in frame, and I kind of just do things the way I figured out to do them, which might not necessarily be the correct steps, but it works, so here we go. So I do apologize. It's not the cleanest of examples. So I know there are variations. I know there are sometimes situations. I'm just looking for, like, what do you do in general? And that's what the poll in the description below is going to be. You know, do you prefer to go without the instructions or at all, or do you prefer to use them? It's just a preferential thing rather than a definitive in every single possibility. See, for starters, like, I really do want to make sure that I've got my transformer transformed correctly. Because as we know over the years, you can't even trust the stock photography on the box. Even that has been mistransformed from time to time. So I can't necessarily trust that, just looking at it like a puzzle, figuring out what I'm going to do next. And, well, how does that get there? Okay, let me rewind, figure it out. I missed something. I don't want to, that's going to be a thing, but I want to make sure it's correct, right? Like, and that's a good reason to use the instructions, just to make sure everything is bang on. You don't want to have like a figure that doesn't quite work. You've got things, but they're not quite aligned in vehicle mode. Like, you get it to robot mode, but this doesn't have the clearance that you expected it to have, just to find out, oh, I missed a step that would have made all this easier. That kind of sucks. And that is kind of like one of the bigger reasons why to use them, because like sometimes that happens in awkward places. Sometimes you leave a toy mistransformed and it's just that way forever because you never learned otherwise. I will admit, there are a lot of times I have reviewed a transformer and someone goes, you missed this step, you didn't do this, if you did this first it would have been easier, and like, it's not how I learned how to transform the transformer, but okay, I get it. I did not follow instructions. I did not properly study the toy first. Okay, I get that. I get that a little bit too often. It's something I need to work on. But it is literally a case of, like, sometimes the toy is like that for so long, I don't even realize it's mistransformed. Cybertron Backstop was like that. Did that for Plastic Addict. Never once knew that you could pull his arm farther out to actually get more range on his shoulder. Never knew that. It's not very clear in the instructions. Which, kind of does raise a really good point about this. Modern instructions are kind of garbage. These days is literally just, like, they'll highlight a part and put a bunch of arrows around it. But a lot of times it's the curved arrow that's indicating that something has to go around in some way, or maybe it has to fold in a certain way, or maybe it has to swivel a certain direction. Those arrows are not exactly the most clearly defined thing that they've ever produced. Also, a lot of times the diagram is not the clearest to follow. Let's assume that this isn't one of those random situations where they've got like a pre-production version of that toy that's actually the basis for the instructions, and everything is actually the way it's supposed to be. But like, sometimes it's just hard to follow and even tell what these parts are and where they're supposed to go. It's very, very unclear for a few reasons. Like, one, it was a long, long time ago we lost the text instructions that went along with the photos. That went out the door a long time ago because, well, it's just easier to not have someone have to type all that up and set up and arrange it. Also, now, in order to save printing costs, we'd have to do it in 6 different languages, so we don't have to do multilingual or like a varied and different packaging for every part of the world we're going to sell this in. I hate this. But also, it's because of what you see here on the screen is that they don't use the photos anymore. They went from like toys like simple drawings of the toys that had text instructions and just showed what parts were moving. And like, that's Beast Wars era. You move on to what I thought was like the best way of doing this, which, you know, and then there was exact line art at some point, which we're back to line art. But in between, there's this nice zone where they're using an actual prototype of the toy to show where everything is supposed to be during transformation. And it's an actual photo. It's grayscale, but it's photo. And it shows everything clearly, and it gives you a far better idea of what you're supposed to do. And I miss that. Every now and then I'll get some kind of off-brand transformer or a third party or something where it's full color photo instructions. I'm like, oh my God, I'm being spoiled now. Yeah, so part of it is just the instructions suck. And there's just part of me that just really doesn't want to use them if I don't have to. Also, Transformers are puzzle toys. I try to point this out every chance I get. We think of them as action figures and vehicle toys in one. Well, the truth is, they're also the puzzle toy of figuring out how to get it from one to another. The motions you go through to transform aren't that different from the puzzle box you bought that you still can't figure out how to get the marble from inside it, but you know it's in there and you got this little piece that can slide out and wiggle around, but you can't figure out how to remove it. It's the same motions. It's the same motions. It's these physical objects that have to move in a certain way at a certain time in order to accomplish whatever it's supposed to do. And I love that puzzle aspect of it. I love trying to figure this out on my own and actually figuring out, you know, where to go about what to do. You know, like, I love to be like, I feel like I have played with Transformers long enough to where I can suss out how everything works. I can recognize hinges. I can recognize, you know, cuts in the toy itself to know this is what's supposed to separate. This is the direction it's supposed to go in. If it's not going in that direction, I just had to figure out what clears the way so that it can go in that direction. You know, and it's a puzzle in my brain figuring it all out, and I enjoy that aspect of it now. It's one way that I enjoy Transformers now more than I did as a kid. But that said, can lead to some messy looking toys sometimes. I like, what much as I like it, the instructions are always close by, at the very least on the first try, because obviously if I get stuck fiddling around with it all on my own, I'm going to need someone to bail me out. So yeah, I will inevitably sometimes on a toy, I will inevitably hit a point where it's going to start looking like this, where like I got something wrong at some point and now nothing is going together. Nothing looks right. Maybe I should have used the instructions all along. That's when I usually learned that the instructions were the better idea. That's usually where I learned that the instructions are a better idea, is because obviously, like, I don't want it to look like this. I could have avoided this. This could have been like 15 minutes out of my day I didn't have to waste trying to figure out why this hinge is in this direction when it doesn't look like it can go in that direction. Things like that come to my head. Also, and I think the most important reason to follow the instructions is so you don't break it. Granted, a lot of modern Transformer toys are notably harder to break. One, because plastic tends to be a little bit softer these days, but also things are designed to pop off rather than just shatter. You know, biceps and thighs are now on these mushroom pegs where if they pop off, you can just pop them back together. So, you know, and a lot of parts on your Transformers are done like that. You know, there's a lot less that's breakable than there used to be, but there's also a lot of little parts now that are breakable. I recently did a custom Megatron out of the Cyberverse Warrior class Megatron because I found them cheap at Ollie's. So I thought, let's just grab a couple and I'll do them up in like Transmetal Megatron colors. And you can see it on my Blue Sky. I posted photos of it on my Blue Sky. And I'm super proud of how it came out because the color scheme actually fits the mold really well. But one reason why I decided to customize one is because I went to transform one, tried to pry its foot, and ended up literally ripping the foot right off the leg. That's not supposed to happen. That's not supposed to happen. So yeah, you should follow the instructions if you just don't want to break it, because even on a simple figure like a warrior class toy, if you're not doing exactly what you're supposed to do, yeah, you can end up with a figure that is beyond repair. But I cannot help it. I still like transforming them without the instructions. You know, like when I look at a toy that I finish transforming a toy and it looks just like it does on the box, or just looks just like it does in the character. Everything fits snug and tight and everything, and like it feels correct. Everything on it looks and feels correct, and I didn't have to resort to the mundane, like consumer level instructions that they provide. I am superior, I am greater, I have figured this out on my own. I will admit, I kind of like I like the sense of pride and accomplishment that comes with it. I like feeling smart and clever. I like feeling like I figured this out. Something that someone will need instructions for, I didn't need instructions for. I'm smart boy. TJ is smart, can do this, can put things together. I like feeling like I'm smart enough to figure out how they engineered a transformer. And I only get that if I successfully transform it without checking to see how it's supposed to work. And the more involved and complicated the toy is, the better I feel when I finish it up and go, all right, I'm the man. I figured that one out. Super cool. And, that's another way to enjoy a transformer in a way they didn't intend to, it's fun to realize you are clever enough to figure out the puzzle. That's the point of a puzzle toy, is that sense of like satisfaction and, oh, right, I'm not an idiot when you're finished with the puzzle, right? And it was, not to call anyone dealing with instructions an idiot, because clearly there's very smart reasons for using the instructions as we have laid out, but I like solving the puzzle on my own, So I usually don't tell you where I fall in these debates until the next debate video, but in this case, yeah, you can kind of see the preference there, which might explain why some of my transformations during reviews are a little bit rough. But as with all of these debate videos, in the description below, you're going to find a link to a poll. I want everyone to answer the poll. It will literally take 5 seconds of your time to do so, because I want as big of a response as possible. So let me know in the comments what you picked, your thoughts on instructions or no instructions. And thank you very much for watching me. And next debate video, I'll reveal the results of the poll. Thank you, everyone. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.